Gordon Gekko, who was locked up for 8 years for insider trading and mail fraud, is taking his things from the clerk as he is about to get released. The clerk gave him all his possessions in order, and Gekko put it inside a bag. He is then handed a check that he earned there and a train ticket. After taking this, he walks out of prison and sees others being picked up by friends and family. He stands outside, expecting someone to be there to pick him up, but he quickly realizes no one is waiting. He's completely alone. Fast forward to 7 years later. 2008. Jake Moore is woken up by his girlfriend, Winnie. She started kissing him to wake him up, and he woke up complaining. She then told him that she was going to Washington for the weekend. She then got up to pour a drink, and Jake turned on the TV. On the TV is Gekko on a talk show promoting his new book, Is Greed Good? He started talking about his previous life in Wall Street, comparing it to his prison time. The once infamous Wall Street shark has remade himself as an author and financial lecturer, because if you can't beat the system, you might as well profit from criticizing it. Winnie, Gekko's daughter, heard her father's daughter and told Jake to turn off the TV, but Jake kept watching. She then turned around and angrily turned the TV off. She then threw the remote and went to take a shower. Later, Jay dropped Winnie at the airport and they said goodbye. Jay grabbed the engine and smirked. "Come on, Bumblebee, don't let me down now." As he is doing so, he gets a call from Dr. Masters. Dr. Masters told him that the market is doing well and they need more money to invest. Jake asked how much he wanted, and Dr. Masters specified that he wanted a couple $100 million. Jake assured him he would get the money and ended the call. Jake works at Keller Zabel Investments, a big Wall Street firm. Once he gets there, he attends a meeting and learns that the market is shaky. During the meeting, Jake was not on board with the ideas that were raised because they shouldn't take a risk like that. After a lot of back and forth, the meeting ended and Jake went out to the office. He found his mentor, Louis Zabel, angrily talking to someone. Jake asked if everything was good, and Zabel told him that he was okay and to stop asking him silly questions. Jake asked if he wanted to see him. Zabel then asked him to follow him to his office, and they headed there. Despite the instability, Jake receives a hefty $1.5 million bonus. Jake looked at the check in awe and asked why it was given to him, and Zabel told him it was a thank you for his good work. He then took out a spreadsheet and started sharing his confusion. Even though it shows a profit, the numbers show a loss. And when he asked about it, he was told that they are profiting from the loss. He asked how they could profit from the loss, and Jake reassured him that it'd be all right. Zabel couldn't be reassured by this. He was worried about what was happening. He then told Jake to spend the money on his beautiful girlfriend. After discussing it for a while, Jake got up, kissed Zabel on the forehead, and left. Following this, Jake went to a fancy jewelry store to buy a ring. The salesman showed him different rings, but Jake asked to see a special one in a private office. Later that night, as he was drinking with his friend, he showed him the ring he bought for Winnie. His friend gave him a shot so that they can celebrate Jake being off the market. As they walked after drinks, they started to talk about the future. Jake mentioned Zabel and his friend made fun of him, saying that he worships Zabel. His friend is doubtful about Zabel and the company doing well in general, but Jake told his friend that he is confident, and to show his confidence, he will invest the money he got from his bonus. His friend told him that he is acting like his mother and he shouldn't risk it. The next morning, the office turned chaotic. The company's stock starts crashing quickly. It quickly becomes clear that no amount of cash is going to stop the downward. Jake held on to his shares to the last second. His friend kept telling him that he was lying to himself by saying that the price would go up again. Jake clenched his jaw. He had been here before, standing in the middle of chaos, realizing too late that he had been played, just like that moment when he begged for help, knowing that no one was coming. You either saved yourself or got crushed. Jake kept his hopes up, but his friend kept asking to get the okay to sell. Jake then decided to talk to Zabel and told his friend he would call him back, and got up to find Zabel. His desk was empty, and when Jake asked the assistant about Zabel's whereabouts, she simply told him that he was angry and not feeling well. Concerned, Jake tracks down Zabel, who is out walking his wife's dog in the park, having skipped work entirely. Zabel is cryptic about most of the things, but Jake kept asking what was going on. He asked why he gave him the bonus at this time, and Zabel simply told him that it was because he knew him. Zabel kept pushing Jake to use the money to support his life, completely losing faith in his company, but Jake was insistent on bringing it back. He kept reminding him about the amount of jobs that are online because of this, but nothing was working to make Zabel hopeful about the situation. Desperate for answers, Jake asks if Keller Zabel will survive this crisis. When he doesn't get an answer, he asks if they are going under, but Zabel simply tells him he's asking the wrong question. The real question is, who's not going under? At this point, Jake realizes Zabel isn't just worried about the company, He's already accepted that it's over. Meanwhile, at the Federal Reserve, Zabel tries to get a bailout for his firm. He appeals to the U.S. Treasury chairman, hoping for some kind of lifeline, but his efforts are crushed by Bretton James, a former colleague turned ruthless rival who seems all too eager to watch him sink. With Keller Zabel on the verge of collapse, James delivers a final insult to Louis Zabel, offering to buy out the company's stock for a mere $2 per share, an almost laughable price compared to the $79 it was worth just a week ago. Zabel, once a titan of Wall Street, is now being cornered and humiliated. Zabel told them neither he nor his board is going to accept this price. Another man told him that they couldn't give him a better deal, and if he doesn't accept this price, he will go bankrupt. Zabel gets angry at this repeatedly, telling them that he built the company and he'd rather take his chances with the bankruptcy court than to sell it to them. James then said that they have nothing more to talk about and got up to leave. As everyone was about to walk out, Zabel reconsidered and he asked them if they could give them a price of $6, but James told him his final offer is $3. The two men started negotiating and finally Zabel settled on $4, but James ruthlessly told him $3 and not a dime more. The next morning, Zabel woke up to his alarm. He went to the kitchen and had breakfast with his wife silently. He then went out of his house and walked to the train station. He got in a supermarket, picked up a newspaper and got a snack. Inside the station, he sat to have a snack, and when he was done, he approached the crowd that was waiting for the train. He walked through the crowd, pushing people to clear his way, and when he saw a train approaching, without hesitation, he jumped in front of it. Shortly after, Jake sees the bad news on TV. Zabel has taken his own life. He cried looking at this news. At the same time, Winnie returned from her trip. She hugged him and told him that she has just heard and that she was sorry. Reeling from shock, he turns to Winnie for comfort. As they stand hugging each other, Jake proposes to her. She looked at him with tears filling her eyes. He told her he doesn't want to wait anymore and he loves her, and Winnie happily accepted the proposal. After this, Jake attended a conference of Gordon Gekko with his friend, where he talked about his recently published book and stock market. As Jake sat there listening to Gekko's speech, something clicked in his mind. It reminded him of the first time he heard Optimus Prime speak. Powerful, calculated, almost hypnotic. The kind of voice that could either lead you to victory or trick you into destruction.
I call it steroid banking.
Jake meets with Gordon Gekko after the conference. He followed him outside and introduced himself. He then tells him about his upcoming marriage to Winnie. Hearing that Jake is marrying his daughter, Gekko told him he would give him 10 minutes and they walked talking about Jake's work. As they ride the subway together, Gekko opens up about his estranged daughter. Winnie has refused to speak to him for years, blaming him for her brother Rudy's death. Jake notices an old photograph of Winnie as a child in Gekko's possession. He asks if he can have it, but Gekko, always one for a deal, suggests a trade. Jake can have the picture if he brings him a recent one of Winnie. Along with the photo, Gekko hands Jake his business card. Recognizing an opportunity, Jake strikes a deal with Gekko. He will help Gekko reconnect with Winnie in exchange for Gekko's help in exposing Brett and James. As expected, Gekko, ever the strategist, agrees, but not without making it clear that every deal comes with a price. Following this, Jake starts digging and uncovers a crucial piece of information. James personally benefited from Keller Zabel's downfall. His firm manipulated false reports about an African oil rig being nationalized, causing panic and sinking stock values. To get James's attention, Jake orchestrates a financial hit, leading to the company losing $120 million. Amid all this, Jake and Winnie take a trip to Long Island to visit Jake's mother, Sylvia, a struggling real estate agent. Her financial troubles are piling up and she asks Jake for $200,000 to help her hold on to her properties. Though hesitant, Jake gives her the money. As Winnie and Jake are coming back from their trip, Jake received a call about James requesting a meeting with Jake. Talk about being intimidated. Jake attended a party that night to meet James. Instead of retaliation, James surprises him with an offer. He admires Jake's ambition and wants him on his team. But there's a catch. If Jake refuses, James makes it clear that his career on Wall Street will be over. Understanding the game, Jake accepts the job, not out of loyalty, but as part of his plan to take James down from the inside. The next morning, Jake went to see Gekko to tell him that James offered him a job. He also delivers the photograph of Winnie he had promised. In return, Gecko provides a crucial revelation. Locust Fund, a private offshore hedge fund, has been betting against Keller Zabel. This wasn't just bad luck. It was sabotage. Gecko drops another bombshell. So now you got his attention. How are you going to shine sitting on his son? He believes James played a key role in his imprisonment. Jake is surprised. He had always assumed that Bud Fox was the sole reason Gecko ended up behind bars after Fox's conviction for insider trading in 1985 to 86. But according to Gecko, while Fox exposed himself, that was nothing compared to the deeper betrayals that followed. He reveals that he and James fell out in 1988, and though he can't prove it, he strongly suspects James had a hand in putting him away. Gecko, as always, wants something in return. This time, he asks Jake to set up a face-to-face meeting with Winnie. "You're going to see what you can do about getting the Winnie and me back together again, huh?" Well, following this, he and Winnie join Gecko for the meal. During the evening, Gecko spots a well-known businessman and eagerly introduces himself, hoping to reclaim some of his former influence. But times have changed. He's brushed off as a nobody, a relic of Wall Street's past. As the dinner progresses, Winnie grows increasingly frustrated. She watches her father with suspicion, seeing no real change in his behavior. When he starts slipping back into his old habits, she finally has enough. Angry and disappointed, she storms out of the restaurant. Jake rushes after her, but she warns him if he keeps engaging with Gecko, they'll both be dragged down. Meanwhile, things take a turn for Jake at work. Push decides so that James's top executive can lead a high-profile pitch to Chinese investors. However, Jake refuses to stay in the shadows. His initiative and sharp instincts impress Breton, and the firm ends up making even more money from his ideas. Breton reassures him that the company is thriving, but insists that nobody should know just how bad things are getting. The economy, slowly but surely, is unraveling. Despite the growing financial uncertainty, Jake and Winnie receive an invitation to an exclusive fundraiser hosted by James. Gecko sees this as an opportunity and asks Jake for $10,000 so he can attend as well, hoping for one last chance to reconnect with Winnie. At the event, Gecko unexpectedly bumps into Bud Fox, who has long since moved on from his past. After serving his sentence, Fox rebuilds his career, expanding Blue Star Airlines into one of the most successful carriers in the country. Eventually, he sold the company, making himself a multi-millionaire in the process. Unlike Gecko, Fox managed to leave the scandals behind. He offers a polite nod of recognition, wishes Gecko well, and gives him a piece of advice: stay out of trouble. As the fundraiser continues, James pulls Jake aside and delivers a long-awaited update. The Chinese investors are committing $150 million to the fusion energy project Jake has been advocating for. It's a major breakthrough, and for the first time, it seems like his dream might actually become a reality. Meanwhile, Gecko makes his move. After all these years, he comes face-to-face with Winnie. Outside the building, Winnie and Gecko have a tense and emotional conversation. Gecko tells her that she is the only thing in his life that truly matters, his one real possession. He insists that she will always be his girl until the day he dies. Despite years of resentment, something in his words gets to Winnie. Jake watches as she hesitates, then finally gives in, embracing her father. Meanwhile, Jake moves forward with his professional ambitions. He informs the chief researcher that the long-awaited investment funds are on their way, hoping it will push the fusion energy project closer to reality. But bigger problems loom. The American economy is spiraling toward disaster, and by September to October 2008, the stock market loses billions in what becomes one of the worst financial crashes in history. Back at their apartment, Jake delivers the grim news to Winnie that everything they know is falling apart. But Winnie, instead of panicking, drops a bombshell of her own: she's pregnant. He kisses her, realizing that despite the chaos, they now have something truly worth fighting for. The next morning, Jake and James went riding and started walking. At this time, James revealed a shocking truth. James has been actively working against the fusion energy project, not because it wouldn't work, but because it would. Unlike oil, fusion energy cannot be monopolized, and that makes it unprofitable for people like James. Infuriated by his greed, Jake finally reaches his breaking point. He quits, knowing he no longer wants any part of that world. Desperate for a way to salvage things, he turns to Gecko once more. This time, Gecko offers him a solution. Winnie has a $100 million trust fund sitting in a Swiss bank account. Gecko had set it up for her when she was born in the 1980s, but after Rudy's death, she cut ties with the money. When Gecko was released from prison, he wanted access to the funds to rebuild his empire, but Winnie refused. She had always considered donating it to charity, but never actually went through with it. Gecko assures Jake that if Winnie releases the funds, their future will be secure. Convinced, Jake reaches out to Winnie, and she finally agrees. They did everything Gecko told them. At the same time, his mother Sylvia arrived, once again begging for money. The housing market collapse has wiped her out, and she asks for $100,000 to keep her afloat. But Jake, now wise to her habits, refuses to bail her out completely. He gives her $30,000 and tells her he won't keep funding her reckless real estate ventures. Amidst this, Jake gets a disturbing call. The money never arrived. Panicked, he realizes something is wrong. Now realizing the truth, Jake rushes to Gecko's apartment, only to find it completely empty. Gecko is gone. As he was standing there, he remembered everything and realized that Gecko had double-crossed back. Devastated, he tells Winnie everything. He confesses that he had been meeting with Gecko behind her back, trying to rebuild their relationship. But now it's clear that Gecko never truly changed. He played them both, manipulating the situation to get exactly what he wanted. Betrayed and heartbroken, Winnie calls off the engagement. She tells Jake that she can no longer trust him or feel safe in his presence. Without another word, he leaves. Determined to confront Gecko, Jake follows him to England, where he finds him back in business, running a powerful financial firm using the very same $100 million he stole from Winnie and Jake. Jake makes one final offer to Gecko. If he returns Winnie's stolen $100 million, he'll get something far more valuable in exchange: a place in his grandson's life. He shows Gecko an ultrasound image of his unborn son, hoping it might trigger some sense of family loyalty. For a moment, Gecko seems moved, but then his expression hardens. He refuses, saying it's not about the money, it's about the game. Giving up that fortune in his eyes is a deal he simply can't make. He isn't just trying to stay rich, he's fighting to remain on top. Jake sees the truth. Gecko will never change. Over the next few weeks, Jake starts piecing everything together: the collapse of Keller's alcohol, the federal bailouts, and the shady deals propping up James's company. Using the information Gecko had previously gathered, Jake exposes the entire scheme. Winnie, who has returned to journalism, runs the story. The fallout is immediate. Brett and James is publicly disgraced, and the company's board of directors, led by Julia Steinhardt, turns against him. Meanwhile, Gecko thrives. His London-based financial firm, now a powerhouse, attracts the same investors who once shunned him. James is forced to testify before Congress about his involvement in the financial collapse, his influence stripped away as Wall Street's biggest players abandon him. He is a man who has been a victim of the financial collapse. He had once been the ultimate predator, but now he's just another casualty, left to fend for himself as the shark circle. Gecko short-sold the market at the perfect moment, turning the $100 million he stole from Winnie into a staggering $1 billion. One evening, Jake spots Winnie, now heavily pregnant, struggling with her bags outside her apartment. He rushes to help. As they talk, Winnie mentions that the baby has been kicking all night, keeping her awake. When Jake places a hand on her stomach, he feels it too. For a brief moment, there's a flicker of warmth between them, but they don't reconcile. Too much has happened. Then Gecko appears, but instead of his usual arrogance, there's something different about him. He tells them that he anonymously transferred all of Winnie's stolen $100 million into the Fusion research account. He doesn't explain why, but the message is clear. He already won the game. And maybe, just maybe, he isn't completely heartless. A year later, they host their son's first birthday party, surrounded by friends and family. And among the guests standing in the garden is Gordon Gecko, now not just a billionaire, but a father and a grandfather, watching from a distance as life moves on.